Mark here, waist deep wade fishing, Southwest Florida. Hope all is good, and we have a great topic today. Everybody out there is used to using Google Earth and Google Maps and satellites to find fishing spots, and that's all fine and dandy. I do it all the time, especially when I'm planning my trip. Again, plan your work, work your plan. But there are scenarios where I'm out in an area that I did look up, but I happen to see another grass flat that I may have missed, which leads me to the topic that we're going to discuss today. How to find redfish zones while wading grass flats without using satellites, Google Earth, any type of mapping system on the computers that you use to find sandbars and oyster bars and cuts and creek mouths and drop-offs and all the stuff that we've discussed in the videos. So now I'm going to give you a little session on how to read water just by you stopping your vehicle, getting out, and walking into the water. So let's begin. First thing you're looking for. If you get to this flat, you haven't been there before, you haven't mapped it out, the first thing you want to look for, birds. I mean, that's obvious. That's a given. If you see birds diving, and you know there's bait on the flat, that's a plus. Number two, wade the water. Walk into the water, find the transition from the mud to the harder packed sand, to the grass, to the potholes, and then if you can, depending on the tide, walk out as far as you can and see if there's a sandbar. If you can't see it with your glasses, if you can feel humps in the sand or a deep trough line, okay, then you know that you definitely have a feeding zone. Okay, that is an ambush point. By you getting out and walking the flat quietly and still fishing, even though you don't know the flat, but if you should walk by and you feel that, okay, I've just transitioned from a sandy, hard bottom to now I've just walked into the grass. Well, I would stop right in that area, okay, and start fan casting. Now, depending on the scenario, wind, what kind of light do we have? Is it raining? Is it cloudy? Is it bluebird skies? Well, then that would depend on what lure I would choose. And I've made a video for that. You can go check that out in my playlist. But then I would start from there. Okay, and I would fan cast just to figure out which direction these fish might be in. So now I'm going to throw another scenario out there. So now that you've walked out there, you found a drop off, you found the grass. Okay, and you're throwing and you're throwing and you're throwing. You still haven't, hooked into a fish yet. Well, keep moving. Next thing you want to look for, try to look for any type of temperature change. Hopefully when you're on the flat, you're on that incoming tide, especially in the winters, which we're moving into right now. If you can feel cooler water coming in, let's just say 10 foot away from you where you were walking, okay, the water, it was warmer, and then all of a sudden you got to this one spot and you felt an increase of cooler water. Stop right where you are, start fan casting. Okay, these are all little tips and tricks that I use when I'm out there, even if I'm on a flat that I know by heart. This is what we call reading the water, and why wade fishermen have the ultimate advantage over anybody else, because you can actually feel what's going on in your environment versus seeing it, versus reading it on your electronics. You're actually in the water, feeling the temperature changes, you're feeling the changes in depth, you're feeling the changes on the sea floor, grass, muddy bottom, rocks, shell, etc. Next thing you want to look for while you're out there, hopefully that spot that you've picked or that you've seen is near some type of pass or some type of creek mouth. Now, of course, in the wintertime, it would be a totally opposite scenario. If you knew where the creek mouth was on that outgoing tide, that would be the first place you would go. If you had high water and you got there on the high tide, and there's 4 or 5 creek mouths, by all means, hit those creek mouths when that tide changes and pulls out, because those fish are going to stage up in front of that creek mouth and eat everything that gets pulled out of there. But let's say you don't have any creek mouths on this flat. Let's just say it's a regular grass flat. Try, if you find the flat, look for, is there a pass nearby? If you see a pass, or if you see where there's maybe a point, head towards that area. That would give you another spot to target, okay, visually, if you didn't map the area, okay? Another scenario for you to look for is a seam. If you see that you have, where you're walking, that there is really no current, and then you look up 20 yards and you can see moving water, and it looks like almost like a rip current, and you see water going one way and water coming a different way, or water standing still and then water moving past it, by all means, go hit that seam, because what's happening is somewhere along that grass flat, okay, there might be a small sand hump, a mini sandbar, okay, that is causing the water to go around it. And when that water's going around it, it's making extra current, and that current showing up on that, on the water top. And that is going to draw fish to that area. Why? But any bait that's going to go through that area is going to get tossed around from the current. And the fish know when those the bait fish are disoriented, it's easier for them to come in for an attack. Another thing to look for while you're out there waiting and you haven't mapped the area, water clarity. Know this: trout do not like dirty water. Big trout, okay, are solitary, and they will usually hunt on a higher tide near the shoreline versus the grass flat. That's a free little tip I threw out there for you. Redfish, they like the cooler water, not too cool, but they like the cooler water. They're bottom feeders, so knowing that, they will hit a top water. I've caught many of them on top, but for the majority of the fish I catch, they're going to be on a bait or a lure I'm using that is closer to the bottom. Their mouths are face down, and with you knowing that, you want to throw something that's closer to the bottom. Look for holes while you're walking the flat. Do a grid. Walk up and down and up and down and up and down. Do that. I know it takes energy. You're going to be tired at the end of the day. But if you work your plan and plan your work, you're going to find that if you use this information, you can take a day or a place that you've never been to before and turn it into something magical. Guys, I hope that little tip helps you out. I'm looking forward to getting back out on the water and getting you some really, really good bull redfish footage later on during this season. And of course, if there's any comments or anything that you want to ask, feel free. All my information is in the description. And of course, if you want to book a trip with me, my info is there as well. Till then, I'll see you on the next video. Love you all. Please like, subscribe, and share. Tell a friend. Be a part of the Waist Deep Wadefish family. And all right, guys, I'll see you out on the water. Bye.